afternoon. Coming off a very good victory against Michigan, you're always on guard the next week, and we began Monday talking about the games we've had against Purdue over the last couple of years have been real tough ones. Last year, 31-24, and certainly 2 years ago here at Notre Dame, needing a great comeback. Tommy Rees coming in and mounting a comeback to beat Purdue. So we know a lot about the kind of challenge that we'll have from an in-state rival in Purdue, and made it clear to our team that it's really about our preparation again this week, and how we prepare is going to be really what we focus on this week. We know our opponent. We know about the resolve that they'll play with. It's an opportunity for them to play at Lucas Oil Field on national television. There'll be a lot of enthusiasm and emotion on their side. So we know what's going to happen Saturday night from Purdue's end. Now it's about what we do and how we respond to that. So I think it's pretty clear that our players understand what they're going to get from Purdue, and that is their very, very best. They've got some veteran players on defense that we're familiar with. Defensive ends, Russell and Phillips, athletic players. They've got some veteran linebackers, and secondary's aggressive. They like to get up and play some tight man coverage. So, guys that we recognize, guys that we've gone against. They provided a difficult challenge for us last year in running the football. So we'll certainly have our work cut out for us there. Offensively, they do a very good job. Coach Shoup's a very good offensive coordinator. He's very experienced. They schemed us up last year in certain areas, specifically in some of our bracket coverages in the red zone. So, they do a very good job offensively with a lot of different looks, spread sets, motions. So again, well coached. Coach Hudson does a great job defensively, experienced coach. And last year they gave us fits defensively. So again, we know about Purdue and what they can bring. We know about the enthusiasm that they're going to bring to the game. It's really about our preparation and how we practice this week. And I know our guys were excited about their performance on Saturday, but it has no bearing on this game. It's really about our preparation. So that'll open up to questions.
Coach, as you said, the past 2 seasons have been close games. The season results don't indicate that they should have been that close. Why do you think they haven't?
If you watch the film and you turn it on, you really see two different teams. Last year, they had a game that went right down to the end against Indiana State. It was 20-17. The week before, they got blown out against Cincinnati. And then they play us to, obviously a tight ball game. It's just in-state rival. You just throw out all what happened before. They just play very, very well with a great deal of enthusiasm and emotion, and we're going to have to meet and exceed that.
Is it tough to meet that enthusiasm just because you have had so much success? Your players don't view them as much as maybe a rival as Michigan was last week?
I don't think so. I think that with this football team in particular, and we'll just talk about 2014. They just enjoy playing, and whether it's Purdue or North Carolina, it's always been about preparation for this group, and not about the opponent per se. And so as long as we keep that as central to how we play each and every week, and not rise to a particular opponent, then I feel really good about going into this week in our opponent. It just seems like this group in particular has really set themselves apart in a sense that they really just love playing the game. And as long as we prepare properly and do the right things leading up to it, we should play the game the same way week in and week out.
I know it's early in the week, but there was a lot of talk last week about how there was a buzz on campus for the big game and all that. Do you sense anything like that this week? Is there any special feeling about the game this week?
Well, they know it's at Lucas Oil. They know it's the Shamrock Series. You know, the excitement of playing, you know, in the home where two of our captains are from, that gets their attention. So I think all of those things really lead themselves up to, you know, a special Saturday night. And you know, our guys like to be on national television, and they're pretty excited about it.
Last one for me, just any update on the 5?
No, nothing, thank you.
Okay, I'm up. We're doing the front row again.
Let's do it again.
Okay. Anything, updates on Hunter, Grace, and Collinsworth as far as this week?
Yeah, Hunter will work into some teamwork and see how he goes today. You know, now we'll get into some full speed cutting, some Skelly and 7-on-7 teamwork, and we'll see how he responds to that. He has been, you know, working the passing tree, you know, doing things against air. Now we'll put some live bodies up against them and see how he goes today. Jared Grace, you know, I think it's slow progress, but it's progress, you know, each and every week. I couldn't give you a timetable on him particularly. We're dealing with really body mechanics, foot strike, things of that nature. So those are, we're probably more at that slower progress stage for him, pain-free. Then I think the other one was Collinsworth. He's in you know, really week 2.5, so he'll begin to move this week, but he would not be available for competition this week.
Is there any thought with Grace of just saying, get better this year, we'll roll the dice with a 6th-year type thing, or do you really want him this year?
We're going to continue to press, and I think we have to keep that, for him, the thought of playing this year. There has to be something there for him to keep pushing, and motivating factor is to play football this year for Jared. There's still a lot of football out there. We've got 2 bye weeks along the way, so we really feel like, obviously, after this week with another bye week, that the plan is to keep pushing him.
And with such a deep group of receivers right now and a lot of success from different people, what can Torrey, when he's healthy, bring that's maybe unique or different?
Well, he's, first of all, somebody that is explosive. He's an explosive player. He is somebody that yards after the catch, I think, will be one that we'll talk about. He's a strong player, you know, in the sense that he can handle somebody on top of him. It'll be interesting to see. I think we got to get him out there and really figure out, you know, what position. He's somebody that really could play all 3. He could be in the slot, but he could play on the perimeter. And I'm anxious to really figure out where it is. But there's no question that when we get him healthy, he's going to get an opportunity to play for us.
You mentioned Saturday night the slot position had been somewhat concerning to you until Saturday. Do you feel like Amir's over the hump, and did you kind of know that he had this in him when you made the move there?
We felt like he had the capability. It was a lot of football for him to learn. It's still a lot of football for him to continue to learn. He plays hard. He is a great kid. He's conscientious, but he was learning a lot of football at that position. There's a lot going on. And I think really what put him over the top was his concentration on catching the football with his hands. And once that really became something that he felt comfortable doing, I think it really allowed him to progress quickly.
Does it matter to you Saturday, and do you have a say in it, whether the roof's open, closed? at Lucas?
I don't really, I would kind of defer to what they normally do there. I think for us, more than anything else, it's kind of like when we're indoors at Loftus. It's not about hot or cold as much as ventilation. And so whatever gives us the best airflow, even if it's a little cooler for those that are in the, the stands, I really don't care. It's more about ventilation for us.
What about the press box?
Yeah, we would want it nice and warm for you guys. Absolutely. I'm sure the stories would change dramatically.
Brian, up here. The other night after the game, when we were talking about the early use of the timeouts, you said the moment might have been a little bit too big, and I assume that involves Everett because the play clock.
No, I meant for me.
It was too big for you.
Yeah, I was having a hard time getting the plays.
I doubt that. Do you have to, I mean, is he a guy that you kind of have to monitor his emotions? Too high, too low, confident, unsure?
Yeah, and to clarify, it was the first time out, he wasn't aware that the 25-second clock started and at the ready for play. He thought it was on the snap. So as you saw, he kind of walked out there after we broke, and he kind of looked around, and he was kind of taking it all in. I don't know if the moment was too big. He just wasn't aware of that particular situation. The second time out that we used was not being aware of the clock. The third time out was really my fault. We had a particular play called down in the red zone, and on my game sheet, I have a box for my concepts, past concepts, and it wasn't on the past concepts. It was on in the red zone. So I was looking on the concepts for the play, and it was admitted it was in the red zone. So it was a little late getting in. So I think it was everybody, you know what I mean? It was a big game. There was a great atmosphere, and I think we're all kind of just, getting into it. But once we got our rhythm down, I think it started to go smoothly.
Fans and media, naturally, when you call early timeouts, it's like, oh, what are they doing? How can they be confused? But if you look around college football, I mean, it really happens fairly frequently, whether it's a delay of game or you have to call a timeout. Rice was called for a delay of game at the beginning of the second half. What are some of the logistics involved in that? And I would imagine TV and coming back from TV timeouts, you never know exactly when the refs are going to start the clock.
Yeah, the mechanics are actually a little bit more involved because when they come back, you're either getting a 30 or a 15 seconds before the ball is called in ready for play. And you really need to be on top of it. So there are some moving pieces, and it's not to excuse that they should have a delay. I just don't like taking a delay. So I'll use a timeout. As you saw, it really, for me, we had a minute and something left before the half, and we didn't need a timeout to score. And I just think it's not a big deal. If you need to use a timeout in the first half to kind of settle in and communicate more effectively, I'm okay with that. I don't want to give up 5 yards and be behind the chains early on. So I'm okay using it. Second half, you should have it sorted out. If you're getting delay of game penalties in the second half and you've got communication issues, you probably got larger issues going on.
Getting back to Everett's emotions, and you said after the game when somebody said Heisman, you said why not? But do you really want that? Not that you can control that, but do you really want that thrown on his plate too?
I think I think we're all on the same page that we know it's game 2, and there's so much time here that he knows, we know that there's a lot of work left, and so we can't control what other people are going to think. We know internally that we've got a lot of work to do. If you want to put his name on the list, that's fine. It's not going to influence, is the point. It's not going to influence what we need to do to get better at that position and what he needs to do. I don't believe that if he's on the Heisman list, that that's going to change what he does in his preparation. So that's why I was like, if you want to put him on it, that's fine. I think he's grounded enough that he knows what he needs to do to get better.
And with regard to Will Fuller, who had, pretty much a breakout game for him, he has had some trouble with drops. He had a little bit of that last year. How do you deal with the receiver? I mean, drops are a big part of their game. How do you deal with that? Do you deal with it up front, or is it, and there's kind of like the unwritten rule that you don't talk about it too much?
Yeah, his drops are specific to wanting to turn quick, short routes where he stops his feet into bigger plays. When he's moving his feet, he's pretty good. His concentration, he looks the ball into his hands, so they're specific, and we took down his drops, and they're specific to him getting his eyes away from his catch. And so we can really take Will Fuller and say, look, here's what you're doing in these specific instances. And he dropped the hitch route, he dropped the quick screen into the boundary, and it was simply just pulling his eyes away from the catch. So we can work on those things.
When you started recruiting him, I mean, he was a buried diamond in the rough. What did you see that you thought could translate?
He tracked the ball as well as any guy that we recruited. His ball skills were outstanding. The way he tracked the ball down the field, we didn't see a kid that, first of all, his top end speed was outstanding, and tracking the ball with that kind of speed is a rare commodity, and those were the two things that stood out.
Thank you.
Coach, in terms of Elijah Shoemate, how far did he go from a concern in the Rice game to a real asset in the Michigan game? How far did he come in that week?
He made progress. There's no question that I think that this was probably the best game that he's played since he's been here. We still had 34 mental errors on defense. And so they didn't cost us, but I want to temper it by saying that there's still some growth there that needs to take place. What he did that he hasn't been doing is he communicated so much more effectively. Outside of what his normal comfort level is, and I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, he's not a, he's not a guy that really is somebody that speaks out, and he's not a great communicator. He keeps to himself. He did a really good job. But there's still things that he has to improve on there. I really think it was he didn't want to let his teammates down, and he knew he was counted on. And when you're placed into that position, he didn't want to let his teammates down. I think that was really the impetus that put him in the kind of role of playing the way he did on Saturday.
How does Coach Van Gorder approach those 34 mental errors in terms, to alleviate them?
Well, there's a couple of things. Obviously, one, it wasn't just one player. They're defensive linemen, linebackers across the board. We were able to make up for them because we have some skilled players at different positions that can make up for some of those mental errors with their skill. We obviously have a lot that we can talk about this week in terms of getting better. And they saw the film last night and can see a shutout and know that there's a lot there that they need to clean up. So look, you can't get a better teaching environment than that. I mean, you shut out an opponent and there's all these errors that need to get cleaned up. It's a pretty good teaching environment right now.
Coach, you mentioned usually almost weekly about avoiding the noise. Going into a game like Michigan, there's a lot of talk about what a big game it was, so you want them to avoid that. Against Purdue, there might be noise saying that this shouldn't be as big a challenge as Michigan. Is it even more important to avoid the noise in that case?
Yeah, I think in a different sense. We have really begun this process in January, and we've talked about we don't rise to the level of our competition, we sink to the level of our preparation. And that's really where we are. And our players know it. It's been on the back of our shirts in summer conditioning because we knew what this schedule looked like. We know what it looks like. And each and every week, it's a challenge for us, and you can't rise to the challenge. You have to rely on your preparation, and that will be the case this week. It'll be about what we do and our preparation that will determine what happens on Saturday, because we know Purdue and what they're going to do. They're going to play their very best.
They could have a different quarterback. Their situation's not really settled at quarterback. You've got two guys that have a lot of the same type of skills. When a team has two different quarterbacks, does that involve more preparation in that regard defensively?
A little bit. I think we've kind of vetted out both quarterbacks. We got a chance to see a little bit of them later in the game against Central Michigan. So I think we've got a decent idea. Clearly, they're big kids. One's 6'2", one's 220, one's 238. So, they're both physical kids that can do some things. Neither one of them is, the threat to run like the kid from Rice, but both of them are capable of running. So we have a game plan for both of them, certainly.
Got to ask you about special teams. You got one return all year for 16 yards. The guy came out from 6 yards deep in the end zone. Just been phenomenal what the kicking game has done, and it's become a real weapon. Phenomenal performance so far.
Well, we got a guy with a big leg, Kyle Brinza, and when you kick him out of the back of the end zone, all those guys do is run down and avoid people. So that's been a huge thing. I don't want to take anything away from him, but that's been a huge piece to our obviously kickoff coverage team, is that they have not had to defend but I think 2 plays this year.
Thought that kick in the fourth quarter was one of his best. It went straight up in the air and didn't allow much for a return, and
yep.
Kind of what you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, he was our special teams player of the week, and he's done everything for us. Knocked 2 down inside the 10. He changed his technique over the summer. You see now that his ball now looks like my wedge shots on the green. I was joking a little bit. They stick and they hold. Wow, tough group. But he hit a couple of real good ones inside the 10. So that flip of field position is huge. So he's doing that, extra points, field goals. He's doing it all. So he's a huge weapon.
Thank you.
Brian, to your right. Your coach is probably graded a little tougher, but for week 2, 3 to 4 missed tackles is kind of remarkable, especially considering you're just not allowed to tackle as much or can't tackle as much in camp. What has been the change? It's even in your best season, 2012, week 2 was a rough time for tackling. Yeah,
circuit training on that every single day. We circuit train, tackle every single day. It's what we do in every single practice. And we teach it, and there's not a day that when we've got our pads on that we're not circuit training the tackling procedures. It's fundamental. It's been ingrained since I've got here. We've been a good tackling team. I think we're a better tackling team.
On that note, Matthias Farley had one of his best games for sure. Not only tackling, but really the emotion he seemed to bring. We didn't see it much from him in the past, but he is definitely into it with the Michigan players. Did you see something different in him?
Yeah, he was fired. He doesn't like Michigan. He'd been that way since Thursday. So it started with him, and he played with an edge and played very well. And the thing that we brought up is that he played 43 plays on defense. And he was on all special teams, and he was our, other than our kicker, he was our best special teams player. So he sets a bar for, look, if that's the effort level that we're getting from a Matthias Farley, and he's played 40-something plays on special teams, then you have to exceed his level on special teams. So he set a great bar for our special teams relative to effort.
And last one from me. When Golson has missed, it's been those short, what we would call easier passes. It would seem to be something that was kind of plagued him in the spring. Is that concentration for him?
Could be. We missed 2 slot routes, one off of a corner fire and one to Koyak that are can of corn, if you will. I mean, those are right in his alley. Sometimes he opens up a little quick on those. Of course, he had 3 or 4 drops as well. I think we had 4 drops. We had 2 easy completions. They're all very easily correctable ones for him. He threw a couple away. So he's close. He's close to being, at that point where we can start to be in that 70% completion range with him.
Coach up here. Former co-worker of yours, Bill Scholl, was named the Director of Athletics at Marquette this morning. Just your reaction to that, and what are Bill's strengths as an administrator?
I'd say first and foremost, what he brings, and I'm sure he brought this to Ball State as well, is that just the great knowledge of what it takes to bring everybody together within the department. Always a very good communicator, provides, for me, early on, he provided, that opportunity to get things done in a timely fashion. He has that sense of getting things accomplished. And I always thought of him as a go-to guy, when it came to things like that. So great communicator, gets things done, and I think he builds a consensus. He gets people together, hoping that we can maybe get them on the football schedule too. Maybe we can pay him back for that. Do they play football? No? Okay.
Right. We've talked so much about
So for 2, I can't even get anything out of this group. Long weekend, I guess.
We've talked so much about Everett Golson, the way he's looked through 2 weeks. Just how instrumental has Matt LaFleur been behind the scenes with some of that development? Oh,
he's been huge. He's with them every day. Everett loves to watch film. He's he loves to learn about football. He loves football. He loves the X's and O's of it, and Matt is of the same cloth. I mean, those guys are, if they could just watch football film all day and just close the door, that's what they would do. So they've been able to build a strong bond that way, and so their communication when it comes to technique and rhythm and drops and all the things that are central to great quarterback play, they're able to share that on a day-to-day basis.
Flip into another new assistant. We talked a little bit about this on Sunday, but Brian Van Gorder is obviously pretty emotional on Saturday night. How is that presence, whether is he like that every day behind the scenes too, fist pumping and doing all sorts of wild stuff? And how?
It's one of those things that during the game, he is so calm. He really is. I mean, he's making calls. I'm able to communicate and talk to him very easily. He's not up and down. I think we caught him, in a moment where he was pretty fired up. I know how that happens. You catch one blip, but he is easy going on the sideline and easy to talk to, and he manages his players. He's always back on the bench, coaching his players. So I know this is kind of taken a life of its own, that he's, crazy, but I'm telling you, his demeanor on the sideline is professional, and we're getting lots done on the sideline. And but I love the fact that when his players are playing at a high level, that he shares that same emotion with his players. I think that's really cool.
Got to ask you, as a Red Sox fan, how'd it feel to have Alex Rodriguez in the stands wearing a Notre Dame shirt Saturday night? I thought that was neat. I really did. I think any time that we can expose the Notre Dame brand to the professional athlete, and I got a chance to hear from him that he thought it was one of the greatest experiences that he's had in terms of the atmosphere and being here at Notre Dame. It's just,
another opportunity that somebody had never had to be here. And, he said it was an incredible experience.
Thanks.
Coach, I'm wondering if you can comment on Tony Alford, both as a member of your staff, his impact on the team, and then from a personal perspective as well.
Well, as you know, Tony is, somebody that has been here prior to me getting the job, and just a great staff member, great personality, easy to get along with. It's got a great family. They're always around here, and having the Alfords part of the Notre Dame coaching staff and family is, it's just great to have them with us. As a coach, he's a great mentor to his players, and not just his running backs, but all players on the team. As a recruiter, he's hardworking. He builds great relationships and connections with players throughout the country, high school players. He has a great way about him that he's able to communicate effectively with the kids that we're recruiting. So I think in that sense, he's invaluable to what we do here at Notre Dame.
He had said particularly that you and Pocky went over and above in reaching out to him and supporting him a year ago in his brother's death, and I wondered if you could comment on that.
Well, I don't know. Anybody on our staff that has had, tough times, we've wanted to help them in any way possible. Obviously, Tony's brother had put together a high school football camp, and we just wanted to be able to see that camp would continue to grow and develop. So our foundation was able to come in and help and support that camp. And again, it was very small in the sense that anytime we can help, the Alford family continue a football camp, that was a pretty easy one for me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Brian, with Jerron, I know we talk a lot about him just being consistent, but technique-wise, is he at the point where it is just consistency and getting him the volume, or what things does he have to improve technique-wise?
Yeah, it's the conscious competence level, right? It's that he knows what to do, but it's so hard to do it because he's long. I think we had this conversation a little while ago, is that he's a little bit out of profile for that position because of his length. So he has to play with great leverage. It's hard to do that every single down. He did it this weekend at the best level that he's ever done it before. Now we have to capture that at the consistent level, and he's got to be able to do that week in and week out. So it's a focused concentration on his end of being able to play with great pad level, because if he does, he's very difficult to defend. We showed a clip yesterday where he was both disruptive and he was, I would say, disheartening to Michigan, where he took the center and he literally walked him all the way back into the quarterback. That's disheartening when that happens. People see that, the quarterback sees that. You lose a little bit of your bite when that happens. And so if he can continue to do that, that bodes well for us.
And just real quick, what was his volume on Saturday?
36, 37 plays.
Coach, over to your left, when you came to Max last week and kind of posed the challenge of Austin being out, needing to step up to communicate, how did he react to that, and what was his demeanor like when you posed that challenge to him?
Max wants to do it. Max is a smart kid. But he's like all young players. He's still trying to figure it out. What Max can do is he can make up for it with incredible athletic ability. I mean, he's got the ability to stare down the quarterback, but still find, the number 2 receiver running down the middle of the field. We just got to get him to continue to learn and develop and at that safety position, and he will, and he wants to do it. And I think we're seeing progress in that, but we're still a ways away from being where we want to be.
Kind of my next question was, how much of a jump did you see from week 1 to week 2 in that area?
I think we made progress. I'm not ready to put a percentage of what it would be. We need to continue to get better, though.
You kind of touched on this earlier with the defense, them being so young and kind of tasting success for the first time as a unit. Do you feel like the message is getting home that, hey, even though you shut out Michigan, you still have a lot you need to work on?
Oh, yeah. Look, granted, okay, we're ahead of progress. We're ahead of where, maybe where you think we would be, but here's really where we're at. So let's just focus on where we're at and what we need to do, regardless of what the number tells you. Here's where we're at, and that's what we did yesterday. We're pretty hard on making sure our guys, focus in on those things in particular.
You're right. 2 years ago, Everett really didn't seem to get comfortable with the zone read until you got into October, and it started putting up 40, 50 yards rushing, and it seemed to really help in the wins against Oklahoma and Pittsburgh. Do you want to see him carry the football a little bit more, keep it a little more on the zone read? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I'm comfortable. He's a dynamic passer, but we have to be able to run him as well. Michigan ran, coming into the game, they were about a 20% man coverage team. They were about 59% man coverage against us. So, it changed a little bit of the dynamics of the game where, zone read for him was more about throwing the football in that game. So it'll change from week to week. If we get the opportunity to run Everett and it's our best looks, we will run him. There's no question. So I think it'll be from week to week. It's always going to be part of our offense. If you give us the opportunity to run Everett, I'm not going to hold him back from running.
Do you have maybe a pitch count of how frequently you want him or not want him to run it, maybe?
I think I've got in my own mind where I think enough is enough. But if you're going to be in a situation where your ends are just crashing down and you will not let us run inside zone, then we're going to have to take it and run our quarterback a little bit more. I can protect him a little bit with some other things, but certainly I don't think anybody is going to play us so one-dimensional that they're going to allow him just to run free.
Colin Hill came into the forefront a lot more. When do you determine with a freshman, like, okay, he might be ready? We asked about Johnny Williams last week, and you said he hit a bit of a wall in August. What was Colin Hill able to do to get him into the mix, and when do you generally ascertain when somebody is prepared to see action?
Retention of information. When we're going through our team work and they can repeat, what we're asking them to do without making the errors. One misfit, if you're not, like, I don't know if you're watching, but they went hurry up and he got caught on the field with our regular calls. And it was like his hair was on fire. He wanted to get off the field so fast. I mean, it's that kind of, this is too much. I know third down, I know what to do in this third down package, but I don't know all the base calls. And so when they know what they know, that's when we're ready to play them. And Colin knows what he knows relative to our third down package. And when those freshmen get that knowledge base down, then we're ready to play him.
He doesn't have that great size. He's not very, that 6'4", 6'5", 250-pound guy off the edge. What makes him so effective?
He's explosive. First step explosiveness. He can come off the edge. He gets there quickly. He forces you to pull up in the pocket, can bend around the edge. He's a really, really good athlete.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brian, just following up on Lou's question on Everett keeping it. I mean, would it be fair to say that you sort of have a default with him, when in doubt, give it?
Yes, absolutely.
So you have three starting running backs and one starting quarterback. Is that basically the
There's no
math
question.
of
It's got to be radical for him to pull it. That's one word. And if in doubt, give it out. So those two words equal kind of where we are. If it's radical, he's going to keep it. Or he's going to take the ball out. And so if you're radical in what you do, then he'll have the ball in his hands. If there's any doubt, we're going to give it out.
You were asked about Matthias a little bit early, but just sort of like his attitude. I mean, he played well against Rice in addition to last week. Is it a health thing? Is it just understanding the scheme? Is it the nickel? What do you think sort of helped him rejuvenate from last year?
Matthias? Yeah. Maturity, confidence, just all the things that a football player gains, by being in the program. Knowledge of defensive football, right? The benefit of being close to the ball. All of those things. I think he's in a really good position where he is. The knowledge that he gained playing up to this point. I think it's just accumulation of all those things really coming together. You're seeing a junior and the benefits of all that experience coming together.
You had said the 34 mental errors. What's, I guess, an average in that department on a week-to-week basis?
Well, our percentage last week was, we graded out from, we were at 56%, we went up to 64%. So we had more mental errors the week before, so we're trending up.
And I guess compared to 2012, I mean, was that a team that was having 6 or 7 mental errors per game?
There were less moving parts, less pieces to it. We were at times up in the 80s for percentages, but there's a lot more going on, a lot more pieces to what we're doing.
And just technically on the Brinza and the short field punting, could you sort of talk about what he's doing differently there?
Yeah, we're using a new technique. We brought Kevin Huber in from the Cincinnati Bengals, who played for me at Cincinnati. We use a new drop technique that has been very effective for us.
Thanks.
Yep.
Brian, when you first got the job, what were your initial thoughts of the Shamrock Series, playing a home game away from home, and has that changed or evolved? What are your thoughts now on it?
I think my initial impression was, why would you give up a home game? But I really didn't understand the implications of the Shamrock Series and really what it meant. I think it's been really good for us because it gets us into some geographical areas that make sense. You may question Indianapolis as to why that makes sense for us as a geographical area, but there are other reasons to play this game in Indianapolis. Lucas Oil Field, obviously, in Indiana. Let's not forget our home base. We've done so well recruiting in this state. There are great players here that we want to call. I guess it's the old adage. You gotta pull your own state. So I think not understanding it at first, I've come to really appreciate it and think it's it's worth doing because we're playing in some great venues.
Great.
Thanks,
everybody.